गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। प्रणाम, वणक्कम एंड जय हिंद। Today we are going to be talking about development and deployment of unmanned aerial systems. And for this, I have with me Sandeep Punithan alongside me. And as all of you would know, Sandeep was the defense editor of India Today, and that's when I came to know him. And our friendship has grown from then to now. Now, of course, he's the editor of News 9 Plus, and he's doing a fantastic job. And the other day, we were discussing about drones and MQ9 and all that. Then we said, let's have a talk on Gunner Shot about this, and here he is. Sandeep, thanks a lot for coming on Gunner Shot. It's an honor for me.
Thank you very much, Jayal Shankar. I'm honored to be on your show. I've been a big fan of your work. I've been following Gunner's Shot for the last 11 months that you've been on air, and absolutely fascinating, top class discussions that you've been, conducting on a range of issues, not just related to the military but to geopolitics. And also, I'm absolutely honored to be on your show, and I can't wait to ask you about 1,000 questions that I have on drones.
Yeah. So we can you can start. You did send me a few slides. Should I
Yes.
start that with that, or you want to say something and then we show the slides?
Yeah, well, actually, my first question says that, we've been literally bombarded with images of drones in combat, right? There was about 4 years back, it was still a very, it was an odd curiosity. Drones, oh yes, they're an adjunct of warfare. And then you had the Houthis attacking the oil refineries in Saudi Arabia. And then simultaneously, you had the war in Armenia, where Azerbaijan attacked the Armenian forces and literally routed them. And now you have the Russia-Ukraine war that's entering its third calendar year, where literally drones have rewritten the rules of combat. So, sir, my question to you is that, given the importance given to UAVs, combat drones, why is it that the Indian military is the only one in the world, the only major military in the world without combat drones? And by combat drones, I mean armed drones.
Okay, that's a fair question. That's a very fair question. Uh, this is due to a multiplicity of factors. It's not one single factor. It is not as if the armed forces or the government or the DRDO or anyone connected with drone operations didn't know that the armed drones were going to come in.
Right.
That the armed drones were the future, or the combat drones were the future. We knew it, right? But like I spoke to you on your news channel, and it is my opinion even now, it's a matter of collective failure on the part of our government, on the part of our bureaucracy, on the part of the armed forces, and the part of the DRDO, that today don't have our own combat drone, and that we are
Right.
going in for purchase of 31 Predator MQ9, whatever it is.
For $4 billion, and that's possibly the biggest India-US defense deal ever.
Uh, I wouldn't put it that way. The M777 was about $5 billion. The Globemaster and the C-17 Apache
Globemasters would
Chinooks.
be all in the
Yeah,
same category. But
yeah, they're in the same categories, and this
yes,
also comes in that. But overall, the issue is, I'm not. Let me put it this thing. I'm not too worried that we are paying $4 billion or $5 billion to get
right.
this capability,
Yeah,
because today this capability is required as of day before
yeah,
yesterday. You don't
right.
have it, so buying it for whatever the price, you have to pay for it. It's a very
Yes.
simple thing.
So,
So we are
sir,
getting it.
now looking at the world, I mean, I'm looking at two countries that have literally become drone superpowers in the span of just about 10 years. The first one is Turkey, that you have the Bayraktar and their,
Yeah.
inventory of drones, all kinds of drones. And the other very interesting entrant into this drone superpower club, if there is a category like that, is Iran. Here
Yeah.
is a country that's under the most unimaginable kinds of sanctions for the last 4 decades. And today it's exporting drones to the Russian Federation, which is then copying them and employing them in Ukraine. So where is it that the Iranians have succeeded where we have failed? And what can we learn
See,
from them?
yeah, the first thing you have to understand, because Iran is the perfect example you've given. Iran is a nation under sanctions always, right? It's been there in sanctions right from the
From
Iran-Iraq war.
1979. Yes.
Yeah, Iran, yeah. And they've been denied an air force.
Yes.
They don't have an air force. Their air force is all the Russian, some Russian aircraft of
No,
those 70s.
no, and interestingly, sir, the Iranians have the air force that was given to the Shah of Iran. So they're still the last users of the F-14s and the
Yeah.
F-5s and the
Yeah,
F-4s.
so they've got the old, it's almost
absolutely. Old fighter aircraft.
vintage or museum
Yes.
type of aircraft.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have aircraft
Right.
and they were under sanctions and they were determined to do what they had to do, they
Right.
developed two capabilities.
Right.
One is drones, the other is missiles. They
Yes.
have gone with drones and missiles,
Yes.
developing that indigenously. And
Right.
we tend to forget that the development of drones and missiles are almost
Right.
the same in terms of technologies. If you can
Right.
develop a drone, you should be developing a missile and vice versa.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
both are aerial vehicles. And they've developed it.
Yes.
And then they mass produced it to the extent that today the Russians want it.
Right.
Russians, for all their thing, have not been very great at producing drones. They've been very
Right.
great at producing missiles, etc., etc.
Missiles and artillery. That's another
Artillery.
mystery to me. And I wanted to ask you that question. Why is it that the Russians are so good at, say, the Air Force, the artillery, but when it came to drones, they had to resort to importing the Shahid 135 from Iran.
The Russians had the technology for aircraft, guns, missiles, everything, which is a legacy. The technology, I wouldn't say the legacy. It's a what shall I say? It's a hand-me-down kind of a thing. Right from the Second World War, they kept developing it.
Right.
They had the technology, they had the system going for it,
Yeah.
right, and all that. Whereas they never needed drones because they never visualized fighting wars at the scale at which they got involved in Ukraine and Russia Ukraine. Right. So they never developed drones. So when they've got into a combat situation, they don't have drones. They will give them time. Within maybe 2-3 years, they'll start exporting drones. But at this point of time, they don't have.
Right.
Because their industry, everything was not tuned to this. That's the reason why they've gone in for, Iranian drones and even Turkish drones. Right. And they didn't have the capacities for their artillery, ammunition.
Right.
Second World War, First World War, they had. But later on, since they didn't visualize fighting at this scale, they even downsized their industry. Right. That is why they are now running after North Korea and everyone else for ammunition.
Yeah, for ammunition.
So that's the state of their geopolitics, the interplay between their geopolitics, local domestic politics, economy, and things like that, where they're in a situation. So that's how it is for them.
Right.
Yeah. Next.
You mentioned this point about missiles. So first, two takeaways quickly. One is that, of course, that you mentioned that drones and missiles are like the poor man's air force. So a country like Iran, that's under all kinds of sanctions, cannot afford an air force, resorts to drones. So in our case, do you think it was this multiplicity of stakeholders? There were so many people. You have the Air Force, you have the Navy, you have the Army, and then you have this bizarre situation of three forces going and buying the same drones from the same supplier, Israeli supplier, separately over decades. I'm referring to the Searcher and the Herons.
Herons. Yeah, I agree with you. This is actually the problem, the crux. You hit the crux of the problem with our defense planning and acquisition and development programs.
Right.
Okay, we've never been joint, and for
Right.
good reasons. I mean, I wouldn't say good reasons, for the bad reasons which I can think
Yes.
of. We've never made an effort to become joint,
Right.
despite the fact that
Yeah.
Mr. K. Subramaniam,
Yeah.
as the member of the Kargil Review Committee, in fact, he was the presiding member of the Kargil Review, chairperson of the Kargil Review Committee, had said that we need to focus on jointness. We needed a CDS.
Yes.
Okay. And it is only now that we have a CDS. And we had a CDS when that first CDS, Bipin Rawat, met with an unfortunate accident. We had this great vacuum for 9 months when we got the second CDS. So till such time we didn't have this CDS, things couldn't have
Right.
moved. But now
Right.
it's rather down the line. We've wasted quite a lot of time. I
Right.
only hope that our systems turn around. Otherwise, we
Right.
are in for trouble.
Right. So, interestingly, when you said missiles, I was just thinking of another missed opportunity that, again, from our history, this thing of single services, the single service approach that we followed. Now, in the 71 war, so as you're aware, the Indian Navy deployed your anti-ship missiles, the P-15
Yeah,
series, which they
yeah,
acquired from the Russians, on the missile boats. Largest ship-to-ship usage of anti-ship missiles, possibly in naval history until then, until 1971. They've destroyed merchantmen, destroyers,
yeah,
minesweepers,
everything.
vast use of missiles. But the most interesting, so this is possibly the first time that an Indian armed service has used guided missiles. Now, any other country, the P-15 would have become the template for a new series of cruise missiles to be used by every service, the Navy, the Army, the Air Force. And that continues as a Navy only project. And even the Navy does not re engineer the P-15 like the Chinese did. Now, the Chinese have got the same missile, they've re engineered it, they've made the HY series, and they're self sufficient. So, and the Navy continues, and then it goes into a span of, a series of imports, different kinds of missiles,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then you have 6, 7 different types of missiles. So, I mean, this is the single service thing that you spoke of, and the fact that we don't have any jointmanship when it comes to capturing technology, mastering it, and then sharing it across the spectrum. But what to your mind is the way ahead? Now, the drones is another big miss. You've missed that missile race of the 70s where you could not capitalize on the fact that you had the cruise missile technology, which you were again 20 years late. We are still talking of Nirbhay almost 50 years after we've attacked with anti-ship missiles, similar technologies. What do you think we should do now with drones, given the fact that, as you mentioned, we're so horribly behind the rest of the world, almost a decade behind the rest of the world? What is the need of the hour now? What should we do? What kind of joint structure do you envisage for ensuring that we catch up with the rest of the world?
You see, let me go back a little in history because we have to learn from our own history and
Yeah,
learn from the positive things which happened in our history. Look at the integrated guided missile development program.
right.
In the mid 80s, we constituted the guided missile development program, 84, 85.
Yes,
By 88, we had fired the first Prithvi.
right.
By 89, we had fired the first Agni. And now we have a series. Then you have Akash, you have everything. All
Yes,
Nag also has come, maybe after 30 years. But we have a program, we have technology, everything there. Take that model. You have a model,
right,
right?
right.
So instead of asking one, DRDO only to say,
Yes,
okay, you produce that Rustum, and
right,
they उन्होंने जो छुपा रुस्तम कर दिया उसका पूरा. Right. So far, after 20 years,
yeah,
25 years, that it's only a chupa Rustam. I don't think it will ever fly.
right.
Nothing. It's all empty promises. So I think at a national level, at this point of
Yes,
time, we need to uh, constitute a program or start
absolutely.
a program at
Right,
on a mission mode
right,
for drones. Now this program has to have 3 4 constituents.
right.
The first is it should be able to make combat drones combat and surveillance drones,
Right.
which are quadcopter, hexacopter kind
The
of.
full spectrum of
variety.
drones,
Yeah,
right
the
from
whole
your
spectrum. The second
yeah.
is on heavy lift, IC engine based quadcopter variety
Yes.
for lifting in high altitudes
Right.
and all that. Look,
Right.
all our development has to be oriented to high altitudes or Indian
Right.
Ocean,
Right.
right? The vast expanse of the Indian Ocean. And
Yeah.
we should be able to do carrier based operations also. I mean, these are the
Right.
ship based operations,
Right.
right? So that's the second. The third, you need long range drones or UAVs, combatized, right? When I say
Yeah.
drones, I look at combatized and surveillance vectors. And third, you have to have a program for near space UAVs.
Right.
And then all these has to be linked up with
Yes.
a low Earth orbit constellation.
Right.
It's not just one. So you have to span aerodynamics, astrophysics, and space-based dynamics. All these three you have to put, and that program has to start. And now that program has to encompass DRDO, way I look at it, ISRO, very
Right.
important. Then the three services, and
Yeah.
then the four premier institutes which have aerospace departments:
Right.
IISc, IIT Powai, IIT Chennai, Madras, IIT Kanpur. These four
Right.
are the premier. Why I say premier? It is not that others can't produce, but these people have the structures, they
Right.
have the test facilities. When I say test facilities, lab facilities, and they have the intellectual capacities in the departments
Right. Right.
to come up with everything. So unless you incorporate all this, and this has to be run by the services, not by DRDO and all, because DRDO is a trusted and failed entity as far as this is concerned.
Right.
So this has to be run by this thing, and you need to get hold of a couple of people who are good at it, who have experience
Right.
at all this across the board. When I say across the
Well,
board, someone who's
right.
operated it, someone who's procured them with some practice, someone who's into research, put them
Right.
and let it run, and don't
So, what
hope
about the private
for
sector?
results.
What about the private sector? What role do you envisage for them in this
Production,
IDDP?
production,
Yeah. Right.
production. They will come and look. Let's be very clear. If you want to have your own drone systems,
Yeah.
you need technology.
Right.
You don't need technology which you buy from outside and get it here.
Right.
One. Second, the next thing is you have the technology here. You uncover it.
Right.
The private sector has to come in to help fund and own the programs. They have to fund. I mean, they have to have a stake in it. Today, the private sector, most of them, what they're doing, they are getting parts from outside, getting some
Yes.
chap from outside, assembling it, and
Yeah.
or they're getting some OEM from somewhere to assemble it and give it to you. Many private sector people, they either getting from Israel, they are getting from Europe, they're getting from some Korea, South Korea, and all. They rebrand it and give it to you.
Right.
Today, that might be the need of the hour. Okay, because you need it, so you're getting it. Like you bought the MQ9, you're getting it. These 3, 4. Okay, this story you can run for the next 3 to 4 years, but ultimately you need to have your own program. You need to have your own technology. Uh, let me put it this way: the army, we even in IIT Madras, we are in talk with the army to start a program of this kind. But this is again a single service thing, a small nascent program where we prove to them that we have the complete technology for making the first step for a hail UAV. We have the complete designs of an aircraft. We have the engine. We are looking at out of the box solutions for sensors, because the
Oh.
costliest part of a sensor is
Right.
costliest part of a UAV is the sensor.
Yeah.
If you don't have sensor, that UAV is just like an aircraft, which is the cheapest part. So, and that sensor technology is something we don't have in India. So you forget that and look for alternate technologies. which we have. So if everyone, puts their shoulder behind each other, I think we'll be able to make a breakthrough. This is my
So
view.
that's a very, very interesting solution that you've mentioned, sir. This integrated drone development project. And what do you think
Project.
would be the lifetime, the program spread? How many years do you envisage us being able to capture the key technologies?
See, good thing is we have the technologies.
Right.
Let me start. Okay, see. When I quit the service, I came to the IIT with the idea of developing a drone. With what little funds we had, we've developed all the technology. We have our own design of our own drone. We have our own engine. We have someone in India who's making engines for us. We can upgrade
Right.
it. We can invest into it. We have the fundamentals of the technology by which we can have alternate sensors. We have the technology by which we can make, disposable drones. For example, you can't let a drone go off just like
Right.
that. It's costly,
Yeah. Right.
right? So, but we have the technology of making drones with disposable items, and then
Yeah.
you make the drone only as a platform with minimal sensors. You
Yes.
do computing, everything on ground, which you
Right.
make the drone less costly and expendable.
Expendable.
All
So
these
like the
ideas we have.
evolution of deploying
Yeah, yeah.
cardboard drones.
Cardboard things.
Yeah.
We were looking at the plastic stuff.
Right.
Okay, it might, and that plastic stuff is not as if you just use it once and throw it away. You can still use it for 5-10 times after till then. It's not completely the cardboard variety. And we are not also looking at 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers. We are looking at ones which can go reasonably up to 100, 200 kilometers.
Right.
So we have the technology. All these technologies are available today in India. You have to invest in them, put them in a structure, put them under a head, and let go. The army has finally realized it. When I did all
Right.
this, I couldn't get funding from anywhere.
Hmm.
So, in fact, in the Lucknow Defense Expo, we went and displayed it as part of the Tamil Nadu Defense Corridor stall also. Bipin Rawat came and saw this and said, when are you going to give it to me? I said, look, I can't give it to you because I have to develop the technologies. I have the fundamental flying machine. But to
Right.
develop the technologies further, someone has to invest in me. Well, finally, now the army has started talking to us. Hopefully, they'll give us a project and then we'll move ahead.
So that's
And with
amazing.
this,
It's amazing, General
yeah,
Shankar, that I very few people I know who've actually, crossed over so effortlessly from the services to academia, and now is at the forefront of developing cutting edge technology like the stuff that you mentioned and the other stuff that you would not
yeah,
want to
yeah.
talk about
No, I
now.
have no problem. No, I tell
Yes,
everyone we are developing the Ramjet technology and Indian
absolutely. Yeah,
Institute
you
of
said it. I
Madras.
didn't. Right,
No, Indian Institute of Technology Madras is the only one who has this technology, and we've
Ramjet,
announced it. Only thing is
artillery shell.
Ramjet artillery
Yes,
shells. And we're going to test it. We've proven the technology to a large extent. We are very confident that we'll deliver it to the nation in a
right.
very fast time frame. More than that, I'll not tell you. Or it's not
Okay.
correct to talk all first.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can't wait to ask you that in a discussion. Or a ramjet
Yeah.
powered artillery shell. My God, it sounds like science fiction. But here we are with drones, and where do you see this spate of imports now? The MQ-9, a huge deal. I mean, $4 billion is roughly what you paid for your entire fleet of C-17s about 15 years ago. Would this be the last import of high altitude, long endurance drones? Is there going to be we hear there is going to be some technology transfer in this, which is to get India to build its own Predators with some TOT and all that. Are you hopeful of that? Because the Americans,
No.
when it comes to
No.
technology, they're very, very guarded about it.
See,
Yeah,
they will not give you any technology. Let's be very clear about it.
right. So we're
They'll give you no
good on that.
technology. I'm
Yes,
very clear because look, for 6-7 years, I dealt with the Americans for the M777 deal,
right.
and that's when I first met you, if you remember.
Yes,
When
of
I
course.
was right, they will not give you any technology
Right.
unless there's a pro quid quo in this.
Yes.
If there's a pro quid quo, they'll give you. If it suits their interest, they'll give you. But have we gone with that idea at all? Have we developed that pro quid quo? Okay, to say, okay, you give us the technology and make it in India, and you get this in return. Because
Right.
I have not seen this anywhere in the news. I don't know what's happening, but I have not seen this anywhere in the news. The only thing I've seen is that we are buying. Buying is a necessity today. So we have no
Yes.
choice. Whether it's a good buy or a bad buy or a costly buy is irrelevant. You need it. It's a proven platform. So go
Right.
for it. But should you go for another repeat order of this? I would not go for it.
Right.
You should also simultaneously invest another $5 billion in developing your own fleet of drones.
Right.
If not $5 billion, $5 billion is too much. At least $1 million. I'm not
A
talking
billion
5
dollars.
billion.
What?
1 million. I'm talking of just invest 1 million, set up a program and invest more, right? And don't throw the DRDO off. Though I've spoken this thing, the DRDO has got
Yes.
tremendous capacities. Use them.
No,
But
IGDLP is a classic case of that. You
yeah, it's a
develop.
classic example.
Yes.
Look, it's a classic example. I mean, I keep telling everyone we could do this in the 80s, 84,
Yeah.
85. I joined Prithvi project in 88. I
Right.
was there in the first test of Prithvi and the first test. I coordinated the first test of Agni. I'm very aware they have tremendous capabilities, but
Yes.
they can't hold us hostage to the development. That they are the ones who are developing and everyone else is a fool. That is the mistake where we have fallen prey to whatever their thing is, and we are stuck there. So we have
Right.
to break that completely. Whatever we've learned in Rustum, forget it as a experience, good, bad, ugly. Just forget it and start afresh.
Right. So this IDDP is the way ahead. IDDP
Yeah,
with a budget, with that integrated industry, academia,
yeah. You need to have
services,
industry, academia.
DRDO, all of
See,
them.
yeah, because see, I'll give you one example of sensors. Today, the day-night sensors, designators, everything which is on the aircraft, which is on the UAV,
Yeah.
they are all cooled sensors, very
Yeah.
costly, okay, and high tech. And with that tech, no one is going to give you, okay, TI based, thermal imaging based, infrared thermal imaging, that story.
Right. Right.
So why don't you use digital technology, image tech, image reprocessing, and digital technology? So
Right.
if you do image processing and vision based technology, you can get the same output what that fellow was giving you with a heavy
With the
system
cool sensors. Yeah.
with cool sensors, and you use low cost sensors in this. I mean, our
Right.
solution, if you ask me, I will say use digital processing, for which you have the technology in India.
Right. Right.
Use low end cameras. You can do
Yeah.
it. For
Right.
example, if you put, instead of one high end camera, you put 10 low end
Yeah.
cameras,
Right.
take the picture of this object from 10 different angles, which is inherent if you
Right.
put 10 cameras from different areas,
Right.
and do digital processing of those images. You'll get a you'll get you the lot you can do, and we have the technology. Why don't you use it? And
Right.
then this also enables you to get all the costly onboard computing and all off the aircraft. So if the
Right.
aircraft gets shot down, it doesn't matter. You are okay. So you have to think differently.
Yes. Think out of the box and
Think out, and there are solutions.
right.
I'm quite firm that we have solutions. As far as putting an armament on it or putting a gun on it or a missile on it, if you can put a missile on a helicopter, you can put a missile on an aircraft also. What's so great about it?
Right. On a drone as well.
Yeah, on a drone. It's
Right.
not a big deal. So I have no. The point is, we have the armament technology. We have the
Yeah.
technology to make a flying machine. We have engine technology to a large extent, and we can upgrade it as we go along. Right? You have digital technologies with you, so you have to just put it together.
Right.
You have to put it together and fly. And if the armed forces want it, they'll get it. That I can assure you.
Right.
Maybe it'll take time, 5, 6, 7 years. But after
Yeah.
5, 6, 7 years, you will be on top of the loop.
Right. So now, we've been deployed in Ladakh against the Chinese for the last 4 years now. And drones are being used on that frontier all along the LAC. We hear reports of drones being, buzzing out troops, and we are also using them, I'm told. Now, on the western side, you have Pakistan that's also been using drones in various different roles. There's the drug mafias linked to probably the deep state. They've been using drug mules, the drones as drug mules to transport ammunition, arms, and all that. So literally on both our contested frontiers, the LAC and the LOC and the international border, you're seeing the use of drones. So how should our responses be to this? I mean, one, of course, they're two completely different terrain, the LC and the LAC. So what should we use? What should we leverage these two live situations to accelerate this drone development project that you've proposed?
See, as far as the current status is concerned, uh, the Army, Navy, and the Air Force have made interim arrangements by going in for off-the-shelf purchases
Right.
through a whole
These
lot
are
of.
counter drone capabilities you're talking of.
We'll first talk of the drone capabilities.
Right.
So they've gone in off the shelf through a whole lot of people who have come in, startups. A drone industry has come up, and they have the capability to give drones for various purposes. And the Army, Navy, and the Air Force are using it on both borders. But these are low-end stuff. They don't give you that this thing.
They're
There's
quadcopters.
some
Yeah.
quadcopters basically,
Yeah.
and then they have given you some mule capability also,
Yeah.
right? But these are all they are not technology driven. They are put together and given. They are not Atmanirbhar. They don't make you Atmanirbhar.
Right.
Okay. When I say Atmanirbhar, they'll make you Atmanirbhar in production, right?
Yeah.
They don't make you Atmanirbhar in technology. They meet today's requirement. Tomorrow's requirement, they'll not meet.
Right.
And if they do meet, it's at a huge cost. That's one. The second thing is you need to have counter drone capability. When you said counter drone capabilities, that's also layered. You first need to have a good detection capability.
Yeah.
And that detection capability so far is based on EO devices and visible devices. We have not used the acoustic method. And that's again technology driven.
Right.
Because every drone, whether you like it or not, gives you a sound signature.
Sound, yeah, absolutely. The buzzing.
Any other signature can come or not. But the sound signature is something which will not escape.
Right.
And we have not even looked at it. We have not looked at it. We have not even thought of how to catch a drone through its sound.
Right.
And once you catch a drone through electronically or through acoustically or optically, then you can neutralize it. Then you're looking at kinetic destruction or electronic silencing or passive. You do passive measures also, you can sort it out. Right? You can use also prophylactic measures if they're coming too close. Open out with just a MMG on them, something will catch. Because it's not a fast flying object.
Yeah.
So counter drone also has to be systemized.
Right.
Again, this is something which I have not seen happen. I've not seen enough thought going into counter drone operations. People say we want counter drone. They're looking at systems, they're looking at deployable systems, and that's it. But have you thought through it? Again, have you commissioned a project for it? Same route.
Right.
A combination of academia, industry, and the industry is in for the fast buck. That's a problem with us. The industry wants a quick thing. They want to get something from somewhere, give it to the services, buy and make profit.
Right.
But I think the armed forces have to look deep into this, and the MOD and the bureaucracy out there also have to start thinking of this.
So you're talking
have
now.
To have this.
You're looking at two different programs. One is your drone program, and then the other is a counter drone program.
Yes, we need to have both. You need to have both, because it's only counter drone programs, and the counter drone programs for land and the counter drone programs for a ship have to be different.
Absolutely. Marinized. I guess the
and
ship
they
ones will
and they have to be
marinize.
meshed together.
Yes.
Okay, and both these, your drone program and your counter drone program, has to be linked to the satellites. So you need
Right.
to have a space element of this. You can't say that I'll buy a outside system and link it to my space capabilities, which I don't have.
Right.
So you have to develop a space capability, a LEO constellation dedicated for the armed forces. Today you have a thing where your Navy has its own satellite, Air Force has its own, and Air Force wants to now build a system of its own. It wants to usurp aerospace, everything in
Right.
space they want, which means that again a single service kind of a thinking is coming in. So you need to have a joint system, and I hope the CDS is looking into it.
Yeah. So that's another interesting suggestion. So you have like two mirror development programs, one for developing drones and the other for counter drones. And essentially, that is the distilled wisdom of all the wars that we have seen, that you have to either have the ability to launch masses of drones, and you have to protect your forces from the swarms that the enemy is going to throw at you. So that roughly is the thing. And the third
And,
aspect I
and not
want to
only
ask,
that, yeah,
yeah,
please go
is
ahead.
that how do you protect your? So the military, as I see it now, is stuck in a place where, for want of a better analogy, where Indian hockey was before the AstroTurf came. We are still continuing to play on field. The world has moved on to AstroTurf, but we want to continue to play on the thing. So this thing of I'm talking of the deployment patterns, the way our forces are arrayed on the borders. They're exposed. Aircraft are exposed, ammunition is exposed, fuel is exposed. uh, what do you need to do? I mean, given the fact that drones are going to be literally on the first day of the war, they're going to be used, and probably in the first hours, you'll be hit by drones and cruise missiles. What is the kind of defensive measures that you need to undertake? Whether drone jamming is one option, but beyond that, tunneling, because we've seen a lot of things in Ukraine and Russia where they've basically buried all their systems. They've gone underground to protect them from this, this swarm of things. So this capability of tunneling, digging underneath, which is, I mean, it's also an aspect of counter drone warfare. How would you get the services to, move in on that quickly?
There are two, three ways of doing it. One is you have a counter drone capability, which is electronic, acoustic, and all that, and a
Yes.
kinetic counter drone capability, which I have explained to you. The second thing is you do passive measures. Passive measures are two. One is you dig in,
Yeah.
right? You dig in, and that needs preparation from day before yesterday again. You have to dig in
Yes.
hell of a lot. You have to dig in your ammunition. You have to dig in your
Yeah.
deployment areas, X, Y, Z. But everything can't be dug in. You can't,
Yeah.
hide all your guns. Your guns have to be in the open. Your tanks have to be in
Yes.
the open. They can't run
Right.
away. So you have decoys,
Yes.
and again here, IIT Madras is doing something original.
Right.
We are in the process of talking with the armed forces, the army basically, to make decoys, which can
Right.
be deployed and maintained with the right temperature and all, which they can fool the
Right.
sensors
IR sensors
in
and
yeah, and in double quick time. These
right.
are going to be, you see, it's like this. If you want to show a tank, let's say you
Yeah.
have a decoy of a tank, how do you deploy it? In Kargil, we use cardboard boxes, barrel pipes, etc., old tires
Right.
and all to make guns, right? And fooled the Pakis. And the Pakis saw them and fired on them, and they went to the wrong place. But today, with the way drones are coming up, you can't do that. So
Right.
to hide your guns, you need decoy guns or
Yeah.
decoy tanks. So, and those decoy tanks have to come up immediately. That means they have to be full size, deployed seductively enough for the enemy drones to come there. That means they have to be inflated over within no time, etc.,
Right.
etc. And you can't keep taking a foot pump or a compressor and keep filling it. That's all gone.
Right.
So you fill it with explosive gas.
Okay.
There are technologies. We are making it. right? And that explosive gas also has the heat to give a heat signature. And you have to incorporate heat panels, X, Y, Z, and you probably have to even transmit some communication from that. You have to build a decoy.
Right.
And we've given a proposal from the IIT Madras to Army for this. Let's see where it goes. But we need it tomorrow. I mean, if you don't have it, the drones will have you.
That's another aspect. So not only do you dig in, but you also present your decoys as to lure the enemy drones away.
You confuse him. See,
Right.
Well, let me put it in a battlefield context.
Yes.
A swarm will come.
Yeah.
Right? Let a swarm come. Swarm will have 10, 15, 20, they'll come. They also look for targets, no?
Yeah.
Each UAV or each component of that swarm can take on only one target.
Right.
It can't take on 10, 20 targets. It will only take on one target and hit one target and go back, because that's the capability of the swarm. It will fire once and end of story. It can't fire again. Okay. Right. There'll be some redundancy, X, Y, Z, whatever it is. So a swarm comes. Now, even if when that swarm comes, if you present more targets to that swarm and confuse him, he's done.
Right.
Right. So and then certain things you do hide from that swarm.
Yeah.
And then you use your counter thing for that swarm, and you use kinetic measures for that swarm. So if you layer your swarm defense to passive and active, and everything else is this thing. See, it's something more interesting, because this has to be related to the terrain, especially in high altitudes. In high altitude, you can't fly a swarm or a UAV anywhere you want.
Right.
In the high altitudes, everyone leaves a footprint. Everyone leaves he'll come from one direction, go from another direction, because valley flying, winds, X, Y, Z. Even the Chinese can only do that much and no more in high altitudes.
Right.
So you know his route in, route out, you know his fingerprints, everything. So you act accordingly. You block that. You have to. It has to be a complete thinking process. If I put it in a different manner, it has to be a womb to tomb affair.
Right.
One end to the other.
But so you just mentioned this thing of what are the difficulties of operating at high altitudes? Drones at high.
Yeah. See, drones at high altitudes are subject to weather problems, basically, climatic problems. These small drones, okay, these quadcopters and things like that, 4, 5, 10, 20 kilometers, that you can handle, right, at the spot. But even that, if the winds are high, if there's no visibility, right, and if the terrain is very close, you can't handle them. Even those you can't handle. There's a limitation to what you can do with these drones there. So that is something which you can do on the spot, and people are handling for that, which I think we have wherewithal. The Chinese also have wherewithal. We also have wherewithal.
Yeah.
And that is why today, in any encounter or on a face-off and all, both sides get up their drones to record what's happening, so that that narrative warfare goes on with these short-range drones. These are long-range drones. As far as long-range drones is concerned, there's a problem of operating long-range drones in high altitudes, which people have to recognize.
Yeah.
During summer, because of the high temperatures, ground surface temperatures are very high, and ground level turbulence is very high, and you also have cases of clear air turbulence, right? Valley-based turbulence. So in summer, which is actually the campaigning season, the utility of UAVs are very less.
Right.
Here the Chinese are at a disadvantage. They have to take off at altitude. We can still go back. For example, from Hashimara, if you take off, which is in the plains, you can go up to the high LAC with a long range vector. Whereas he can't do that. He doesn't. Everything is above altitude for him. Now, just to give you this thing, I've seen in high altitude in Leh, IL-76 shuddering to take off with no passengers, 0 passengers.
Yeah.
It shudders to take off because of turbulence. And this lasts, and in fact, in summer seasons, all flying stops there at about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
UAVs can't stand that. Same thing for UAVs. Next thing is this jet streams. Jet streams in Himalayas is a phenomenon,
Yeah.
and they're high speed tubes of air, and the tube could be 10 to 20 kilometers. Now, if a UAV enters the jet stream, it will not come out.
Right.
UAVs
Okay.
at the end of the day, low powered stuff, even if it's a
Yes.
hail, mail, whatever it is. So, if the jet stream is there, you are constrained. If temperatures are there, you're constrained. Weather conditions in other times in monsoons and all, you're constrained. If you go in monsoon time in the northeast, you can't fly anything. So, to think that UAVs are going to dominate the Himalayas, no, they're not going to.
Right.
They will
Right.
definitely have value.
That's a relief. So,
They have value, but second, it's not enough that you have a UAV. You need to be operationally adept at flying it.
yes.
You need to know how the other fellow is deployed to find him and fire at him. This is not
Right.
Azerbaijan and Armenia or flat steppe area like Ukraine, Russia, and
Yes.
Donetsk area.
So there
It's
are,
all
that's a
value
very
flying.
important point, that our geography imposes a lot of restrictions on the
Restrictions.
of the drones, and
Yeah.
especially the
Drones.
armed drones.
No, any drone. Even for surveillance, it's a problem.
Even surveillance drones, because the payload is there.
Yeah. Because again, you have to go on specified routes. If you go on specified routes, you can get knocked out.
Right.
So it's not as of now, just because we don't have, lucky for us, our terrain gives us that shield.
Yes. The Himalayas are a
So-
shield in more ways than one, it appears.
Yeah,
especially
it
when it
is.
comes to drone warfare.
Yeah.
But what about
Yeah,
our
it is.
Western neighbor, General Shankar? Pakistan has, the last couple of years, they've invested heavily in drones, whether it's reconnaissance drones, combat drones. I believe the attack on Iran last month in January, the
With
retaliatory
drones.
was using Chinese drones.
Yeah,
Armed
they will.
drones.
See, in planes, drones still work.
Right.
Drones still work. The only good thing for us is that Pakistan is in no stage to fight a war. Okay. Otherwise, let me assure you, the Pakistan drone program is far ahead of the loop. They've been investing in homegrown drones ever since I can remember. I remember as a brigadier, I remember reports coming in that they were using highways from which they used to operate. They had expanded, widened their highways at certain points. And when you analyzed it, you knew that they're going to operate drones from there. So we had a way of denying those by cratering them and things like that. So this, cat and mouse goes on. But let's be very clear. Pakis have good drone systems, and we should be alive to that problem if it comes to that. And as far as handling Pakistan with normal drones are concerned, I think we should be able to handle with these low and the surveillance drones, etc. we have. And once these MQ9s come in, we'll have that capability. So we'll not be very badly off. But till the MQ9s come, I think we will be at a slight disadvantage.
Right. So you're looking at a gap of about 4 to 5 years before the MQ9s come and they can be operationalized, and the training of the crews and all that takes place.
Yeah, all that. I would say complete capability by about 4 to 5 years. The beginning of your capability will start about 2 years hence. Once the first lot come, you operationalize, train them, deploy them, you gain experience. By the time the last drone comes in and you operationalize everything, because just having a drone is not enough. You have to put the command and control setup along with it. You have to integrate these drones with your command and control and your other firepower means.
Right.
The drones are not the only.
Is the only service that's operated these drones. I mean, they've leased 2 of them for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And unarmed variants, of course.
Unarmed variants we have. The Herons and this MQ9s, there's very little difference. See,
Right.
as far as operating high altitude, medium altitude, long endurance drones, we have
Yeah.
done. We've
Right.
done relay operations. We've done relay
Right.
operations on high altitude. We've
Yes.
ridden. See, where did I come to know that there's a jet stream in Himalayas?
Yeah.
That is actually by flying into them. We lost an aircraft because of that.
Okay.
It is
Okay.
by experience. Okay, so
Right.
it's why? How do I know that you can't fly everywhere? Because we couldn't fly everywhere
Okay.
in weather. You know, I mean,
Yes.
what I'm talking to you is of experience. As a DGRT, this was my
Absolutely. Yeah.
job.
Which is, yes.
Okay, I
So,
was the one who
well,
was procuring all the things before till the time these got transferred to the aviation.
really. So,
So
General
these
Shankar,
are practical things.
you made that
Yeah,
distinction between the armed drones and the unarmed drones. Like the unarmed drones, of course, we've been operating for decades now. Uh, when it comes to the armed drones, which is a capability that we're getting with the MQ9s, explain to us, laypersons, how different it is when you're actually flying. It's like flying a fighter aircraft from the
yeah,
ground.
yes.
So, what is the kind of training that you would need for that? And, how long would it take you to come up to scratch, say, where the US is today?
Look, first and foremost, to fly these long-range armed drones, need to have SATCOM capabilities, right?
Right.
So you need to have a linkage with this thing, or you need to have a relay capability. So these capabilities you have to develop in the course of your training. It could take 1 to 1.5 years minimum, right? Then you need to have the capability of acquiring targets and acquiring targets separately. You can't just acquire targets on the fly and go and
Right.
attack them. If you won't have use these drones to attack targets, it has to be a planned affair. It can't be
Yes.
impromptu affair. It can't be something like close air support, that there are tanks in
Right.
the battlefield, you come and attack them.
Right.
You could do it,
Right.
but that's the
Yeah.
most imperfect way of doing it, most inefficient way of doing it. So you need to plan. So when you plan, you have to use routes in, route out, suppression devices, masking them,
Right.
and recognizing the target, how to attack the target, analyzing the
Right.
target, all that. So that means you need a whole lot of backup surveillance and intelligence setup before
Right.
you embark on a mission with this, right?
Right.
And then you need, I mean, today with the kind of plethora of information which is coming in, you need to have an AI backed battle
Right.
management system.
Yes.
I mean, that is something which we have not spoken of. For what are the Americans doing? The Americans are flying their UAVs off Tampa, Florida. That
Yeah.
was where I heard that they had their base, UAV base.
Central
So
Command.
and
At
that
Central Command. Yes.
Central Command is in here in Dubai. I'm talking of in Florida, USA.
Right.
I don't know whichever command that is.
Yeah.
They From there they had a uplink facility and connectivity with the satellites. So the drone
Yeah.
used to take off somewhere else in Pakistan or somewhere,
Yes. Yes.
get linked with that satellite and get linked with that fellow, and that guy
Right.
picks the target up because he's got the target information. Then he directs the target on to
Right.
the drone onto the target. So it's a very complicated operation. It's not simple. In fact, I remember there was a movie of which uh, which shows all these. I'm forgetting it.
Yeah. Yeah.
In
Of
which,
course. The dilemmas of that
yeah,
combat pilot,
combat
drone.
pilot and a drone. Yeah, it's not easy.
Yes.
So it needs a lot of training. He's as good as a
Right.
fighter pilot. I mean, I've always maintained that a drone pilot, UAV pilot, is as good as a fighter pilot. But
Right.
our government doesn't even give them a small allowance. Flyer, he gets a allowance. The UAV pilots get nothing. So no one is interested in coming into for you doing UAV. He gets nothing. As of
Yes.
today, a UAV pilot gets nothing special other than like an army officer.
Yeah.
So he's got no motivation to become a UAV pilot. If you don't have good UAV
Right.
pilots, all this money which you're spending on this MQ9 Reapers are a waste.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
you need to have a HR cycle also for this.
HR cycle. Absolutely. Yeah. So this is.
I mean, we have to think
This
360 degrees.
360, absolutely. And so it's a whole new capability. It's a very important point that you made, that it's just not an acquisition of any other system, but it's a whole new capability that you're introducing the armed forces into, which is operating fighter jets without pilots in
pilot.
them.
And it doesn't stop there. What about maintenance?
Right. The
You
long
have to
tail.
keep them. Yeah, see the such aircraft, like MQ-9, they have weapon systems, they have satcom systems, they have whole lot of things which are incorporated. Now you have to maintain all of them. Do you
Right.
have the maintenance capability? You have to develop that maintenance capability. I'm sure as
Mm.
part of this deal, we are developing maintenance capability.
Yes.
But as we learn, I mean, let me tell you, we learn and we learn it the hard way. This is the cycle. The hard
Right.
way is that you will suddenly find you don't have some part which you never thought was so important, and that part is not lying here; it is lying somewhere in USA or in General
Right.
Atomics. Okay, in some thing, and you will get it from there. And for that, at times you might have to use a civil aircraft also to get it off the record. So all these things happen. Let me tell you,
Right.
right?
Right.
There are times when I had to get tires of a UAV through a civil aircraft through unofficial methods because we didn't have tires. No,
Right.
I'm not joking. This is a
Yeah.
fact. So you have to develop this capability also.
Right.
Yeah. So
So
we've gonna come a long
absolutely.
way. Any other questions?
Yeah, absolutely fascinating discussion, Jan Shankar. And I can't remember the last time I've had such an engrossing conversation, and the time has just flown. But just to quickly sum up what our discussion was over the past hour, you mentioned two very important suggestions, and I think for whoever's listening out there, uh, this is why I speak to General Shankar so often. It's constructive suggestions emerge. The IDDP, which is what you suggested, an integrated drone development program for indigenizing our drone ecosystem for all the services you mentioned, all stakeholders to come, industry, academia, DRDO, the services, driven by the services and for the services to provide us with solutions for armed drones and a full spectrum of drones, as you mentioned. And interestingly, a similar mirror program to develop counter drone systems. Very interesting suggestion again. I mean, I think we are so used to seeing all of these in different silos and the services, but it's so important that you've brought out the fact that we need these two parallel programs to go through. And of course, little things like even an HR cycle for pilots, for drone pilots to motivate them, because clearly from the way we are going, we are going to need thousands of drone pilots at flying your FPV drones, your starting from your FPV drones right up to your hails and even your pseudo satellites and your HAPS. Now, the other thing is you mentioned this, what we take for granted, the fact that the MQ-9 is coming, but it is a whole new capability. It's like
Yeah.
flying fighter aircraft from the ground, and that is something that we have to we are playing catch up still. The rest of the world has moved on, and this is one big area of concern, that India has allowed itself to be overtaken by countries like Turkey and even Iran, which has been under
Iran,
all
even
manner of
Pakistan.
sanctions, and even Pakistan. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
so we have a long way to go before we can catch up on all of this. And the reason that you mentioned, of course, was this single service approach, this siloized kind of thinking, and that suggestion that we only have to look at our own track record and borrow systems and procedures that are set up for the IGDMP, integrated guided missile development program, can be used, leveraged. The learnings from that can be brought into this IDDP program. That's another very interesting suggestion that you made. And very clearly, Jan Shankar, as you mentioned, and we've been bombarded with the kind of footage that's emerging from the battlefields of Ukraine and Yemen and Israel. Drone warfare is not the war of the future, but it's the war of today. And any service that thinks that this is not going to be the way wars are going to be fought will be caught by surprise. So it's
No,
just important
I agree with
that
you.
we prepare ourselves for this future that has been imposed on us, which is the future which has come to become the present. And the future, who knows, it's going to be robots fighting robots. And interestingly, there have been some footage that's come out of Ukraine of drones attacking aerial drones attacking surface drones. So that's possibly the first kind of sneak peek at the future, machines fighting machines, and Skynet and Terminator and what have you. But thank you so much, General Shankar, for very engrossing conversation and full of information from that very unique perspective that you share of being part of a service for so many decades and then effortlessly switching over to academia and actually developing solutions that the military and our industry can use. Thank you very much, Shankar.
Oh, thanks a lot, Sandeep. It was a pleasure talking to you. Actually, on Gunner Shot, I don't do these programs because no one asked me these questions. I'm thankful to you that you asked me these questions.
Great.
And right, and all those who are in Gunner Shot would probably be seeing me for the first time talk this manner. I normally stick to geopolitics and I touch technology, this thing. Because I feel that we have to get our act together.
Yes.
We don't lack anything.
Yeah.
We just have to get our act together. And there are n number of examples. Like I said, it is not only the IGMDP. You see the way we have gone about producing our own warships. There's a lesson there. You see the way we have indigenized artillery.
Yes.
That's also success. You see, we have not learned from our own successes. That's
absolutely
the problem. The day we start learning from our successes, you'll see. I don't know whether I've told you, the M777 started out as a complete buy case. Today, complete M777 spares worldwide are sourced from India.
Wow.
Titanium. And India has only 145 M777s, but the Canadian Army, the Australian Army, and the US Army put together have over about 2,000 M777s.
Right.
All their titanium spares are sourced from India. So we need to have a plan beyond just production.
Right.
And as a result, today, India is in a position to build its own M777.
Right.
You have
so there technology. You go. Something to learn from what we've already done, rather than reinventing the
So you have systems.
Yeah.
You have systems. You have the technology. You have the experience. Put it together.
Absolutely, and you have these amazing programs that you mentioned. That and if you're talking of high technology, there's another area that I'd like to mention is that the ATV program, the Advanced Technology Vessel, the nuclear submarine program. The absolute cutting edge. ISRO.
ISRO. Let me. Sorry for the time, but I thought this was a very important point.
Yes.
Why did our missile technology regime, or the entire cycle take off? You have to understand, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam is not a DRDO scientist.
ISRO.
He came from ISRO.
Yeah.
He came with the success of the SLV-3.
Yeah.
Okay, it was a rocket, basically a sounding rocket, a bigger sounding rocket. That was it. What is the first Agni? The first Agni was a Prithvi mounted on a SLV-3. Simple.
Right.
So you got fresh blood from somewhere to do it. So do it here also.
Absolutely. In the case of the drones, also that who knows that it could possibly be a gamer or a private sector developer or some this thing that would and I'm thinking from the services itself you could have these shining examples.
Yeah, I'm sure you can get. You give people a free hand, they'll give it.
They'll absolutely, and that's what we should be looking forward to if we are to actually become self-sufficient and this thing. But thanks again, General Shankar. It's been a pleasure being on your show, and it's been so educating for me, and it's been a very, very great conversation. Thanks so much.
Oh, thanks a lot. For all the viewers, I am not going to take questions because Sandeep has run out of time. He has to go back